Okay, so the first thing I do when I'm creating an angle, when I'm drawing an angle, I have to make sure I have the what class? Vertex, which is another way to say endpoint. And then I'm going to use the straight side of my protractor. You can also use a ruler. To draw a ray. Raise a hand if you can tell me how you know this is a ray. Yes?
Because it has an endpoint and it has an arrow.
Very good. It has an endpoint and an arrow. The endpoint means that's where it stops or starts. And the arrow means it goes on how? Forever and ever and ever. Very good. Now, when you look carefully at the protractor, this middle part, right where the T is in the middle, that's what we call our bullseye. That needs to be lined up with our vertex. So, our bullseye, which is right here on that T, that needs to be lined up with what class? The vertex. I'm going to use a different marker. There. So I have to make sure that this is on top of here. However, I can't just lay it any certain way. I have to make sure that my bottom ray matches up with what line, class?
The vertex.
No. The zero line. Very good. This line right here. It goes across the T all the way through the zero. So this is your zero line. And it has to match up perfectly. Got it?
Got it.
So, just like that. And it's not on top. When I say on top, I mean it's actually on it. Okay? Makes sense. For your protractor, you're not going to be drawing on your protractor. So, when you have your protractor, you're just going to have to imagine that imaginary line all the way from your T, near your bullseye, to the other side, the end of the line. So, I'm matching that bullseye right there, and then my zero line goes for the bottom ray. Even though it looks like this part here, even though it looks like this part is on the ray, it's not on this side. So we want to make sure that it's completely even all the way across. Just like that. Sound good?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, now we're measuring our lucky 66. So then we look, as we know there are numbers going up and numbers going down. So we're looking at the direction where the arrow is pointing. Okay, the arrow is pointing this way. And that means we need to start counting up from this side. Not from that side, from this side. And so when we're counting up, I see this is blank, 170, 160, 150, 140. So it's counting down here. On this side, I see blank, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. Thumbs up if you think we're counting up on this side. Thumbs up if you think we're counting on this side. Very good. We're starting with the side that has a 0, and we go all the way up slowly, slowly, slowly until we get to 66. So count with me. I'm going to hold down, an important thing too, I'm going to hold down my protractor to make sure I don't move it. So 0, 10,
20, 30, 40, 50, 60.
Very good. 61, 62, 63, 64, 65.
66.
Very good. We're at 66. So I'm putting a dot right here underneath where 66 is on the protractor. Some of you might think that this is actually 114, but remember, we're only looking at the side that we're counting up from, starting with the bottom ray. Also, we know that 66 is less than 90 degrees, which means it's what? Acute. Which means we're looking at numbers that are less than 90. So, next thing, we connect into the middle of the vertex all the way up to 66. Now, to double check my work, I see, does this look acute? Is this shorter? Or is this angle smaller than That 90 degrees? Thumbs up if you agree. Is this smaller than 90 degrees? Very good, it is. Now, we'll double check our work by measuring the angle. So I'm going to put my bullseye back on my vertex. I'm going to match up my 0 line directly with my bottom ray. And then I'm going to see what number it passes through. I see it passes through 1 dash after 65, which is 66. Very good. Now, it's a Q. Step 2, remember, we place the bullseye on top of the vertex. In step 3, we line it up with the 0 line. And then we see what number it passes through. This looks like 65. So I might not be exact on one of them, but that looks like 66. But if you got 66 on one side and 65 on the other, it's close enough where I would understand that you measured it properly. If you got 66 on one side and 90 on the other, that would be a totally different story, right? So if Miss D wanted to name this angle BTW, I would have my B up here. Remember, the middle letter would have to be our vertex, our shared point. And then W would be over here. Now we're going to try another one. We are going to try measuring angle TQR. Repeat it, class.
TQR.
We're going to draw out TQR, and we're going to make it 125 degrees. Before we start, thumbs up if this is an acute angle, meaning less than 90. Is this a right angle, which is 90 degrees? Thumbs up. Is it obtuse? Thumbs up. Ooh, the whole class. How do we know that 125 degrees is obtuse? Because it's more than 90 degrees and it's less than 180 degrees, so it's less than a straight angle. Very good. So, first things first, I have to draw my
Vertex.
And my vertex is going to help me make my, raise a hand. What do I have to draw next? Close. It's not a line because a line has 2 arrows going both ways. Very close though.
Array.
A ray, because there's one endpoint, a vertex, and then an arrow at the end that indicates it goes on forever and ever. This ray is going to be called QR. Why did I decide to name this point Q? Why did I decide to name this point Q? Because that's the shared endpoint, the vertex. Very good. It's a shared point. And that shared point means that both rays are going to have Q as the start point. Okay? So, now I line up my bullseye with my vertex. What's wrong here? It's not straight. What would it mean for it to be straight? What do I have to double check for? The 0 line? Yes, the 0 line has to match up with my bottom ray. Very good. Not only on the T part, but all the way across. It needs to match perfectly before I can measure. Now my ray is pointing to this side, which means I need to count up, not down. So I'm going to all the way to 125. So 0, 10, 20, 30,
40, 50, 60,
70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, and 125 would be right here. right here. Right in the middle of 120 and 130. So since I marked exactly where that would be, I use the straight edge of my protractor, or you can use a ruler. It's important that you use a straight edge or it might get sloppy. And then you create your angle. What should the point up here be called? Yes? T. Very good. So we are going to use rays TQ and ray QR. Those are the two rays we used to create the angle TQR. And TQR, as we said, is obtuse, which makes sense when we check our work because 90 degrees would be right about here. Now I'm going to double check. I'm going to use this as my bottom ray first. Match up with the 0 line. And sure enough, I see that the ray goes right through 125. If I try it over here, sure enough, the ray is pointing right in the middle of 120 and 130 on that dash. That means 125.